U.S. tariffs and the resulting trade war have changed the focus of this election campaign. After threats, attempts at negotiation, several reversals, many Canadian goods, as we know, like metals, automotive, and energy, still face tariffs. And this all comes after U.S. President Donald Trump said Canada, quote, would cease to exist as a country if the U.S. stopped buying its goods. So, which party's platform will do the best at responding to the uncertainty and really the damage from the Trump tariffs? Joining us this morning to break it all down and the party promises, Ian Lee, Associate Professor at Carleton University's Sprott School of Business. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Lindsay.
Okay, so we're going to break this down. Let's start with some highlights from the Liberal Party's promises. Mark Carney has said his government would use all revenue from counter tariffs to support affected workers and businesses. The Liberals will work to eliminate all interprovincial trade barriers. They would invest $5 billion in a trade infrastructure corridor. How effective would that be?
Well, one of them, I think, is counterproductive. I'll get back to that in a moment. That's the retaliatory tariffs. The second two idea, the other two ideas, are much more promising and productive. So let me deal with the negative one first, because I think that's causing problems. You know, we're about 2.3 trillion GDP. The United States is 30 trillion GDP, largest economy on planet Earth. And the tariffs, there have been studies done on the impact of retaliatory tariffs on the U.S., and they're trivial, simply because they're so large, they're so enormous. More importantly, we've had these retaliatory tariffs now for several weeks, and the U.S. hasn't budged. If anything, the U.S. has upped the ante. Yesterday, President Trump said he was going to increase tariffs on auto industry and auto parts, which is so critical to us. So the retaliatory tariffs aren't working. The other two proposals are very important because the interprovincial trade barriers are de facto tariffs. $200 billion. It will increase our GDP by 4 to 8%, according to the IMF. And that will offset, according to Stephen Pulez, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, that'll offset or mitigate or cancel out the impact of the U.S. tariffs on us. So that's the way to go. And the energy corridor will allow us to become less dependent on the U.S. by diversifying our trade with Asia and Europe.
Let's look at the Conservative plan. Pierre Poilievre has promised to use counter-tariff revenue to pay for tax cuts for affected workers, create targeted aid for impacted industries, and pursue new free trade deals with the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So what do you think of this plan?
Well, again, on the retaliatory tariffs, I am very critical of both parties because they don't solve the problem. The idea is it's going to bring the United States to its knees, or at least cause them to change their behavior. The evidence is very clear now. It has done absolutely no such thing. I could even go further criticizing both the Conservatives and the Liberals on their tariffs. Using that revenue to mitigate the impact creates, let's be blunt, it creates an incentive to maintain those tariffs because it gives new revenue sources to the government, so then they can distribute it as a form of largesse. The solution is not to apply a policy that is failing. The solution is to get to the bargaining table, how about the day after the election, and try to negotiate a new deal to get those tariffs removed completely, because that is Canada's strategic interest. Yes, diversify with other countries like Australia and New Zealand, but the U.S. is going to continue to be our largest trading partner forever because we have an 8,800 kilometer border, and 90% of the population of Canada is within 150 kilometers of the U.S. border. Yes, we want to diversify and reduce from, say, 70% dependency, which is where 70% of our exports go now. If we could get that down to 50%, that would be wonderful. But there are Canadians who are talking about somehow going to almost nothing, no trade with the U.S. The $1 trillion bilateral trade will somehow be sent over to Europe or to Asia, and that's just simply nonsensical. You can't send the trade, that much trade away. So yes, diversify, but we've still got to have access to the U.S. market as the largest economy in the world.
So, Ian, I want to ask you lastly about the NDP plan. Jagmeet Singh has promised to support workers by strengthening the employment insurance program, to change counter tariffs to being dollar-for-dollar retaliations, and to launch what they're calling Canada Victory Bonds to raise money for the trade war. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the EI argument is a separate issue. There have been arguments over the years to reform EI because there's a lot of flaws in it. Not everybody's protected and covered. So let's give him credit for the idea that the EI reform system needs reform. In terms of the tariffs he's proposing, it's again my same criticism. It doesn't address the problem. It doesn't end the tariffs on the U.S. side, and it doesn't give us access to the U.S. market on which we're dependent. So again, all three parties have missed the mark. They should, at the very top of the list of what we should be demanding, is a return to the bargaining table and negotiate a brand new deal. And for those who say it can't be done, Trump has already suggested it can be done. And we need to have a conversation over what are we going to have to offer the Americans to have a new deal. I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy or a slam dunk. It's going to be very tough. We're going to have to give up things like supply management, which we aren't acknowledging yet. We're going to have to give up the protectionism on telecom that keeps out foreign companies. We're going to have to increase defense spending. There's a lot of things we're going to have to do to obtain a new deal. But the alternative is unthinkable, that we will not have access to the largest economy in the world. It will be devastating to Canada and to Canada's prosperity and to individual Canadians if we don't have access to that market.
So when I'm thinking about Canadians watching our conversation right now, and they're looking at, these are the plans that are being presented. These plans are the ones that are in front of them right now. Which one of these policies and these plans, in your opinion, do you think will be the most effective response?
I think that the Conservative plan, simply because they speak much more extensively about a new trade agreement. And remember, people say, what's trade got to do with tariffs? Trade is the opposite of tariffs. Tariffs is a protection where you use taxes on your own people to keep foreign products out. Free trade is the antithesis of that. It is the elimination of tariffs. I've supported every free trade agreement since 1988 because it involves the end of tariffs. It involves the end of protectionism. And I think that the Conservative position on this is more down that, going down that road of new deals, new negotiated trade deals that mean the elimination of protectionism and tariffs imposed by both parties, by both countries. So I think that that's going to be the strategic solution for our country and increase prosperity.
Ian Lee, always appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Lindsay. Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.